Welcome to the Rich Life Podcast. We're going to be talking about a mindset hack today entitled The Fox and the Hedgehog, Different Perspectives.
So I'd like to challenge our listeners.
And as we say, awareness is always the first thing. All right. So make sure you guys share this. And if you have any comments, questions, put it into the YouTube channel. Maybe we can get a conversation going. But let's just set this whole Fox and the Hedgehog concept.
Yeah, I got this concept actually from my wife who read about it, and she started labeling me a fox one day and calling herself a hedgehog. I went to look up what this is all about and came across this story. So the story goes something like this. Once upon a time in a forest, there was a hedgehog and a fox. So the hedgehog was wise and the fox was cunning. So the fox, known for its cleverness, would devise a lot of different schemes and tricks to try to catch the hedgehog. It would always change its approach every time and really prided himself on its versatility and intelligence. Hedgehog, on the other hand, just had one trick. So whenever danger approached, it would just curl up into a tight, spiky ball. Despite the fox's myriad strategies, every attempt at trying to catch the hedgehog was thwarted by the hedgehog's simple but effective defense.
Your spouse calling you the
Yes.
fox. So what triggered this?
Yeah, I think in general in our lives, I'm the type of person I like to consider all different perspectives. And I'm someone who sees the world in many shades of gray. I personally believe in nuance and that no one single framework or philosophy can encompass everything. But that's my way of operating, but I know that a lot of people do not operate that way. One of them being my wife. Sometimes we end up butting heads because she'll have come to a decision. She already made up her mind and gets frustrated at me when I'm trying to consider all these alternative perspectives and alternative ways of doing things. I'll really try to contemplate, is this the best way to do it? Are there angles that we're missing? Whereas she might get frustrated if she's already made up her mind and is just ready to move ahead. So then it got me really interested in this topic, and I did some research and came across this topic is actually still widely debated in the life coaching and also the business communities, right? But just to give our listeners a bit of background, obviously this story, like there's a lot of takeaways that we can get from it, but concept of the fox and the hedgehog became famous in a 1953 essay by a British philosopher and historian called Isaiah Berlin. And he wrote an essay back then called The Hedgehog and the Fox, an essay on Tolstoy's view of history. And this drew on an ancient Greek saying by a poet called Archilochus, where he said this famous quote, "The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing." This philosopher, Isaiah Berlin, argued that foxes see the world in all of its complexity, while hedgehogs relate everything back to a single central vision or principle. I did some more digging and realized that this concept actually comes up a lot in business and in life. And it's really interesting to see proponents of each camp. Right? There's one camp that argues that it's better to be a fox. Another camp argues that it's actually better to be a hedgehog.
So this is a little bit different than, I think in more relationships and conflict resolution, one spouse or the other spouse tends to act like their parents, and whether that's yelling and screaming or detracting. This is a little bit different in terms of it's not like when you get into conflict or fighting with your spouses, but it's more like how you see the world, or when you're in more of that relaxed state, how do you tackle or being creative with problems or finding solution?
Correct. How do you see yourself?
I guess what resonates with me is that everybody's heard of the Myers-Briggs. I think I'm a ISTJF. So I'm a bit S. The second letter is sensing. And so I had a conversation with my coach lately and some other partners that I have where I tend to go off of my heuristics and I sense things and I make a push for it. So maybe if I'm saying out of these two, I guess you'd call me the hedgehog, right?
Hedgehog people, yeah, like they, in general, like they don't tend to overthink things as much. There's one or a couple of major guiding principles to their life, and that's what they go by.
Yeah, they like sense, whether that's the mechanism or not, but like the way I look at it is I sense and I go.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people, I think most people get caught up in analysis paralysis, measure 5 times, cut once, where some people are the fire then aim, right? Fire aim. Well,
Yeah. So it made me think of this book Jim Collins wrote, From Good to Great. And in that, he has a chapter that alludes to being a hedgehog. So he highlights this, and I went to reference the book and saw that he referenced three key areas to highlight this hedgehog concept. So one is what are you passionate about? The second one is what can you be the best at, either in the world or in your world? And then the third is what's your major economic driver? And so the intersection of these three things, that's what can help you achieve that. Yeah. So Jim Collins is a proponent of having more of a hedgehog mindset. And then made me think of another book, Gary Keller's like, The One Thing, right? Find that one thing that drives you, like find that one why. And that's what you should emphasize to focus on to achieve extraordinary results. And it seems like in the business realm, the sense I get is that there's more of an emphasis on the benefits of being a hedgehog.
Yeah, and I think maybe sometimes they give the hedgehog crap that the hedgehog doesn't think and they just react and do. And from an outsider's perspective, be a little bit of a hasty decision maker and
Yeah.
sometimes make wrong decisions because of that. But if I'm thinking back to the Gary Keller book, The One Thing,
Yeah.
there is a lot of homework put into actually figuring out what your values are, what your long-term goals, and strategizing to get there. And once you figure out what that one thing is,
Yeah.
it just makes things very crystal clear. So from an outsider's perspective, you act like a hedgehog and you're laser focused and you do that one thing and you don't mess around with everything else. I think that's where some people can say, or they tell me, you just did it. You just didn't think very much.
Mhm.
No, I thought
Yeah.
hours of this. And it's very thoughtful going through it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because on the other side of the spectrum, I came across the other camp that was arguing for the benefits of being a fox, right? So one of them is a book called The Range, and then another one's called Originals by Adam Grant. He argues that those people that think broadly and adaptively can innovate are generally more effective than those who focus narrowly. It got me digging a bit, and I found some examples of like historical figures or present day contemporary figures who are examples of hedgehogs and foxes. Right? So some hedgehog examples are like Winston Churchill. Those are very focused on defeating Nazi Germany. You got Albert Einstein, who was very just laser focused on finding out and understanding the universe's like fundamental laws. And someone like Steve Jobs is very relentlessly focused on like, creating like simple but elegant technology products. And then you got your foxes. So I think the best historical example of this would be someone like Leonardo da Vinci, otherwise known as Renaissance man. Right? That sort of epitomizes what the ideal form of a fox. You have Machiavelli. So in his book, he actually wrote that it's better to be a fox than a lion, especially if the lion is unable to defend himself, because at least the fox can think of other strategies to get out of a predicament. You got Elon Musk, who has all these different ventures, right? From electric vehicles to space exploration to renewable energy, and now Twitter or X. You got folks like Jeff Bezos, who, again, similar to Elon Musk, has a lot of different interests, ranging from space travel at Amazon to media, and even Oprah Winfrey. Right? She's just diversified in so many different things.
I think those are some good references. So
Yeah.
they might say something like, you're not confident in your
Mhm.
decision-making ability. You're all over the place.
Yeah.
Make up your mind. Whereas the pro or the anti-hedgehog claim would be, and I guess this would be more like me, right? You didn't think. You're so focused. Like you almost have like Asperger's, like intense focus, and you miss sight of the bigger picture. I think that's one of the themes in this podcast, just understanding and awareness which one you are is important. And
Yeah.
I've had sessions with my coach where we talk about my very close business associates and who is who. Maybe not necessarily like, is it hedgehog or is it the fox, but more like, how do we make decisions from a
Mhm.
sensing standpoint? And the takeaway was, and sometimes it's, oh shoot, we both jumped to decisions for both sensing. And
Yeah.
that's not good. So the
Yeah.
takeaway was, and I think this can be in a relationship, right? If both people are doing it. And I guess just saying like, our takeaway was like, oh shoot, we better be aware of this. Both of us are just gung ho into things. Somebody needs to pump the brakes, or we need to hire somebody
Yeah.
out that we can both get running downhill with each other. You have two boxes, then nobody makes a damn decision.
Yeah. I think my takeaway, like thinking about this, is that one isn't better than the other. Both have their, pros and cons. And if I were to design a team, I would want both types on the team. Yeah. And my wife and I joke about it, but at the end of the day, we value that the other person is different because that's where you can get the benefits of both.
That whole gratitude thing, that's a big indicator if people stay together. If they
Mm,
don't have some type of gratitude for the other person, then they'll
mm.
probably either be miserable or eventually get divorced. But
Yeah,
whether
true
that's
that.
right or wrong, that's the mindset that probably leads to more happiness and
Yeah,
resolution and
true that.
progress moving forward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. This whole thing got me thinking about some of the Eastern philosophies, right? When I was thinking about Jim Collins, like his three circles, that made me think of like the Japanese concept ikigai, right? Where you have the intersection of not three things, but four things, right? So it's what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And just harking back to what you were saying before, yeah, on the surface, if you've come to that determination on the surface, it could seem, oh, like you're very singular minded. It probably took a lot of effort and time to go through all these different domains to figure out what is in that intersection of these four things. I thought it's interesting how you got these different philosophies, some old, some new, but there's a commonality that carries over through time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than the whole simplistic mindset, if you wanted to come to it from a more Western ways, like the 80-20 rule, we all
Mm,
know that 20% of the levers out there leads to 80% of the results. So why not just
yeah.
start there instead of being a fox brain and going all over the place?
Yeah, totally. I love the 80-20 concept, right? What's the 20% that can get you 80% of the results? And it's just good to go through that in whatever you do. Um,
And also I think that, like, to use a baseball analogy, like the Dodgers, because Shohei's there, but you got Mookie Betts hits first, right? And then Shohei comes second, right? It's not like
yeah.
one's better than the other. One is better than the other in this case. In terms of, I think you guys are, one's a fox, one's a hedgehog. In this case, the leadoff batter is typically the hedgehog, right? That's the person
Oh,
that dives in, they sense and they go. But then in a way, you're the breaks.
mhm.
Before
Yeah.
is that kind of the gist?
A lot of things we realize are like that. For example, working with my wife to set up a new medical practice. We noticed that this dynamic is playing itself out, right? So some decisions she'll be much more quick to decide. She'll make up her mind. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about different angles. I'm thinking about how other people in the partnership see things. At the end of the day, we digest all of it. But there's definitely benefits to both because she'll come to me and say, like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Or thanks for talking me off the ledge. Because I was only seeing things from this one perspective, right? Where I try to see things from multiple angles.
At the same time, you've got the gratitude of, although you don't say it, that without you, we would have never gotten to the ledge in the
Yeah.
first place, or we wouldn't have moved on
Yeah.
anything. It's in a way that contrast is nice in the situation. If you
Um,
don't have that in your business or in your company, or if you're just working with other people, that's where you hire out those right people.
correct.
You don't need to have everything.
But it got me thinking about other aspects of life, and I realized that I'm definitely more like a hedgehog. If I know time is of the essence and something like a good opportunity is in front of me, in those situations, I go with my gut, right? If an investment opportunity comes up, I sense that it's good. I know it's not going to be around forever. That's when I move, right? Or even meeting my wife, I knew pretty quickly, okay, she's the one. We were living in New York City at the time. Rent's very expensive. We were both poor. So we said, okay, rent's expensive. Is this going anywhere? Let's do this
Yeah.
after a couple months, right?
And I think that's where part of that's just experience, right? You
Yeah.
brought the investing thing. The worst investors are the new ones that just never make a damn decision and they just get into analysis paralysis, where it seems like the best investors just make decisions. But in reality, this just comes with some
Experience. Yeah.
confidence. And I can't say a similar experience for like you and your spouse, but I know it's similar with hiring people, right? Sometimes
Mhm.
you just have a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Like you can't put your finger on it.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe if you've gone the exercise of, I've actually got this box of all these 100 cards of values. If you've done that exercise, it
Mm.
helps expedite a lot of this. So you
Yeah.
can put your finger on, like, why do I like this person? Why do I want to
Mhm.
hire, extend a
Yeah.
job after this person? It really isolates that as opposed to just being a feet touch and feel thing. But even at that, most people who are confident and experienced, you just know types of things.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think you with life experience, you realize what are the areas that, you know what, like this is when I should put on my hedgehog cap. Right. And then in other areas where you might have more time and where adaptability really come into play, that's when you put on your fox hat. Rather than either or, recognize the benefits of both and know when to use them. And if you don't have those skills, that's perhaps a good opportunity to team up with somebody who is the other type. Like
Right.
leverage each other's strengths.
Right. Good talk. You guys, you have this full blog article that we just skimmed over the top on drpowu.com. The Fox and the Hedgehog is what's entitled.
This was an interesting topic. It just got me thinking. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this talk with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is, especially if you're going to take this back and talk to your spouse or your team at work, just having these discussions of Myers-Briggs,
Mhm.
predictive index, or these types of things just helps creates like an awareness and
Mhm.
I guess an acceptance of other people and maybe an appreciation too at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think great point. Just appreciate that other people are different, right? And seeing that there's benefits to each. That one's not better than the other, and just gaining an appreciation for each other's differences.
Yeah, and I think that we try to hone down in these episodes or these types of organizations that look, I think Dr. Pohl and I could be wrong, but it's probably going to lead to a lot less productive and happy lives. So it's up to you guys out there. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you have any other suggestions or things you'd like you guys like us to talk about, please shoot us an email, let us know, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
See you guys.